Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Teachable Heart. Thank you for watching. I thought this was one of the more amazing stories I had heard in a long time. The host of the show, Jesus the Game Changer, was interviewing a pastor from northern Nigeria. The man's name was Hassan John, and he lived in a war-torn area and in a city that was split with a Christian community on one side and a Muslim community on the other side. And this area was known for its violence. Over the course of about a decade, Pastor John says that over 100 pastors had been killed and thousands of churches burned to the ground. It was so bad, in fact, that one of his own deacons recommended to him that the church purchase an AK-47 to be used against the Muslims if need be. Now, Pastor John didn't think that was the greatest idea, but he knew something needed to be done, and he was sitting outside his church on the steps the next day when he encountered a young girl who came up to him and tried to sell him some peanuts to raise money for her family. It was a school day, and so Pastor John asked her, "Why are you not in school?" And he learned that she could not afford the very tiny school fees because her father had died. Now, it entered Pastor John's mind at that time that perhaps he and the church could do something for her, so he agreed to pay the young girl's small school fees. And in an effort to bridge the huge gap between the Christian and Muslim communities, Pastor John went with the young girl, walked her home, and in the process entered a deeply Muslim community. There he met the young girl's mother and her other children, none of whom were in school. And also she met a few other women who were also widowed because their husband had been killed in the violence, in the crisis. He had multiple wives, and now none of the children were going to school. So Pastor John again thought to himself, I can cover the cost of the school. And so he agreed to do so. As he was getting ready to leave their community, he asked the first widow, says, "Why don't you come to my church and I will teach you a skill that you can use to thereafter support yourself?" And so on the agreed upon time, the woman showed up and got trained. Within the next 3 weeks, Pastor John reported that they had trained 86 Muslim widows and were able to send 146 children back to school. When the local imam of the Muslim community saw what Pastor John was doing for his community, he met with Pastor John and guaranteed him that he and his church would be protected from any attacks from the Muslim community. Pastor John had two options when faced with the persecution of very real enemies. Option one, buy an AK-47 and mow the opponents down if need be. Option two was to show the love of Christ to his enemies. He obviously chose the second option, and he gained protection that a single rifle could not provide. And what an excellent example of this truth from Proverbs 25 verses 21 and 22. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. End quote. My friends, what's your typical approach to your enemies? Is it more like an AK-47, or is it more like the love of Christ? Give it some thought, and until next time, keep the heart teachable.